Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Modi returns from Jordan, Ethiopia, Oman visit, strengthening diplomatic and economic ties. Prime Minister Modi to address closing ceremony of second WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine in New Delhi. Trump signs record $901 billion defense policy bill, authorizing new military spending and Ukraine aid. Violence erupts again in Bangladesh after young leader Osman Hadi's death. Concerns rise over security near Indian Assistant High Commission in Chattogram. And in sports, India aim to seal the series against South Africa in the fifth and final T20 in Ahmedabad. Proteas look to draw level. Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned home on Thursday after successfully concluding his three-nation visit to Jordan, Ethiopia and Oman, which has underlined India's rising global stature and diplomatic outreach. The four-day tour from December 15 to 18th focused on deepening trade, strategic cooperation and people-to-people ties. Here's more in this report.
From the deserts of West Asia to the heart of Africa, India's diplomatic footprint is widening, confident, credible and consequential. Under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership, India today is not just engaging the world, but shaping partnerships that reflect its rising global stature and voice of the Global South. That momentum was on full display during the Prime Minister's three-nation visit to Jordan, Ethiopia and Oman from December 15 to 18. Prime Minister Modi was in Amman on December 15. His visit coincided with the 75th anniversary of India-Jordan diplomatic relations. Prime Minister held talks with Jordanian Prime Minister Dr. Jafar Hassan. Leaders discussed trade, defense, renewable energy and people-to-people links. PM proposed raising bilateral trade to $5 billion and linking Jordan's digital payments with India's UPI.
Honorable Prime Minister was accorded ceremonial welcome at the airport. Later in the day, Prime Minister departed for Al Husseiniya Palace. At the palace, he was warmly welcomed by His Majesty King Abdullah II. Prime Minister was accorded a guard of honor at the palace. After this, both the leaders had a one-on-one conversation, followed by delegation-level talks.
During this visit, India and Jordan signed MOUs on renewable energy, water management, digital solutions, cultural exchange, and a twinning agreement between Petra and Ellora. Prime Minister Modi and King Abdullah II addressed the India-Jordan Business Forum, focusing on boosting trade and investment ties. From Jordan, the Prime Minister travelled to Ethiopia. India and Ethiopia elevated ties to a strategic partnership, reaffirming cooperation as Global South partners for an inclusive world order. During this visit, Prime Minister Modi was also conferred Ethiopia's highest civilian honour, the Great Honour Nishan of Ethiopia. On December 17, the Prime Minister addressed a joint session of the Ethiopian Parliament.
The two leaders met in one-to-one format, followed by delegation-level talks and banquet hosted by Prime Minister Abe. The two leaders had productive and wide-ranging discussions where they reviewed the full spectrum of the bilateral partnership.
In the final leg of the tour, Prime Minister Modi visited Oman. India and Oman signed several MOUs, including a comprehensive economic partnership agreement and MOUs in maritime, agriculture and higher education. Besides, Sultan of Oman, Haitham bin Tariq, conferred upon Prime Minister Narendra Modi the Order of Oman for his exceptional contribution to India-Oman ties and his visionary leadership. Dedicating this award to the people of India, Prime Minister called this award a symbol of affection and trust between the people of India and Oman. Nishoy Roy's report for DD India.
Underscoring India's growing leadership and pioneer initiatives in shaping a global, science-based and people-centric traditional medicine agenda, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will participate in the closing ceremony of second WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine in New Delhi. Prime Minister has constantly emphasized on mainstreaming traditional medicine and Indian knowledge system through research, standardization and global collaboration. In line with this vision, during the program, Prime Minister will launch several landmark Ayush initiatives, including My Ayush Integrated Services Portal, a master digital portal for the Ayush sector. He will also unveil the Ayush Mark, which is envisioned as a global benchmark for quality of Ayush products and services. On the occasion, Prime Minister will release the WHO technical report. He will also release a commemorative postal stamp on ashwagandha, symbolizing the global resonance of India's traditional medicinal heritage. Prime Minister will felicitate the recipients of the Prime Minister's Awards for outstanding contribution to the promotion and development of yoga for the years 2021 to 2025, recognizing their sustained dedication to yoga and its global promotion. He will also visit the Traditional Medicine Discovery Space, an exhibition which showcases the diversity, depth and contemporary relevance of traditional medicine knowledge systems from India and across the world. Co-hosted by the World Health Organization and Indian government's Ministry of Ayush, the three-day global summit on traditional medicine in New Delhi has brought together policymakers, scientists, practitioners, indigenous knowledge holders and civil society leaders from across the world. Participants showed enthusiasm about the event while appreciating the Indian government for organizing it.
The Indian government has done a wonderful thing by enabling the WHO to come here and host this event. It's amazing, and it's amazing to see how India and the Ayush have already integrated so much of traditional medicine, where we lag behind actually in Europe, and we are trying to gain that momentum and get more funding to make sure that we have traditional medicines within all of our countries.
The participants also highlighted the opportunity this summit is offering for like-minded people in this field to come together and exchange ideas.
For me, being here is really an opportunity to learn and to see the broader, the bigger picture of the world, and to learn from the colleagues from the other continents and other regions how they are thinking, how they are perceiving, how they are developing all the different traditional methods. So people are the biggest resource.
Updates on the winter session of Indian Parliament now. Both houses of Parliament passed the Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rozgar and Ajivika Mission Grameen Bill amid protests from the opposition. The bill was passed by the upper house with a voice vote, hours after the lower house cleared it on Thursday. It aims to replace the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. This bill guarantees 125 days of wage employment per rural household, up from the existing 100 days for adult members willing to undertake unskilled manual work. It links wage employment with durable rural infrastructure across 4 priority areas. The bill aims at aligning rural employment policy with the government's Viksit Bharat 2047 vision. It strengthens decentralized planning through Viksit Gram Panchayat plans and also nationally integrated through the Viksit Bharat National Rural Infrastructure Stack. The shift to normative funding and a centrally sponsored structure improves predictability, accountability and center-state partnership. Parliament has also passed the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India Bill 2025, with the upper house approving it on Thursday. The lower house passed the legislation on Wednesday. It replaces the Atomic Energy Act 1962 and the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act 2010. The legislation aims at the development of nuclear energy and ionizing radiation for nuclear power generation for the welfare of the countrymen. It also seeks to provide a robust regulatory framework for its safe and secure utilization. The bill seeks to constitute the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board and establish the Atomic Energy Redressal Advisory Council. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the passage of Shanti Bill, that is the Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India Bill 2025 in both the Houses of Parliament. On social media platform, he wrote, and I quote him, "The passage of this bill by both the Houses of Parliament marks a transformational moment for our technology landscape. My gratitude to the MPs who have supported its passage from safely powering AI to enabling green manufacturing. It delivers a decisive boost to clean energy future for the country and the world. It also opens numerous opportunities for the private sector and our youth. This is the ideal time to invest, innovate and build in India. All right, our correspondent Dibendu Mondal joins us from New Delhi. Dibendu, yesterday was a very constructive day where we talk of the proceedings in Parliament. Get us a sense of what all is lined up today when we talk of the legislative business in both the houses.
Well, Preeti, this is the last day of the winter session of Parliament. Most of the legislative businesses of the government has already been completed. The government, sat for long hours on Wednesday and Thursday to clear legislative businesses and clear crucial bills like the G bill, which now replaces the Manrega bill. In fact, the Manrega scheme which provides guaranteed income to the rural households. And in fact, this bill will now increase the number of days that the rural people who were employed under the Manrega scheme from 100 to 125 days, and also the amount that they were being paid. But yesterday, the Rajya Sabha sat till late in the evening to clear the nuclear bill, or the Shanti bill, as the government calls it. So therefore, the legislative businesses have been over, and today it is a day of the private members' bill. And as per the list of business as well as the revised list of business, it is the private members that will be allowed to introduce their respective bills after the question hour and the 0 hour. So this is roughly what is there on the agenda. But it seems that the last day of the winter session will sail through smoothly, and the entire winter session had seen long marathon debates, and it seems that the winter session has been a successful one this time around.
All right, the winter session has been successful this time around. I would want you to very quickly give us the high points or the highlights or the takeaways of the winter session this time around. Dibendu.
Well, Preeti, of course, the key highlight would be the two marathon debates that we had last week. One on the 150 years of the Vande Mataram celebration of the Vande Mataram song, and secondly is the discussion on the electoral reforms, because that had been a sour point with between the government as well as the opposition that led to a complete washout of the monsoon session. But this time the government and the opposition sat on the table. They discussed it for more than 12 hours in both the houses of Parliament. We had seen detailed replies from the Prime Minister, from the Home Minister, from the Defence Minister on both these issues, and therefore the issue has been put to rest now. And after that, there were important legislation that were brought in by the government, such as I said, the nuclear bill, the Viksit Bharat Gramin Yojana scheme, which is the G scheme, which replaces Manrega. There had been other important bills, a couple of other important bills that were passed over the last since Monday. And therefore, this winter session has, of course, we'll get the real number of hours that this time the Parliament sat later in the day once the Parliament is adjourned. But as of now, it seems that it has been a productive one.
All right, Dibendu, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those updates. All right, that was our correspondent Dibendu Mondal telling us about the winter session of Parliament. Today is the last working day. Up next, we're heading for a short break, but after the break, US slaps sanctions on 2 more ICC judges for investigating Israel. TikTok signs deal to create US joint venture, ensuring the social video platform can continue operating in the United States. 7 killed in small plane crash at US North Carolina airport.
For sustainability to become more than just a statement, it needs to be practical and seamlessly fit into our lives.
If we are thinking about a net zero economy, and obviously automobile sector is at the center of this transformation. Instead of buying new vehicle, if I can retrofit and upgrade my existing vehicle, environmentally speaking, it is superior.
Zero waste means repair, reuse, analyze.
We realized that if women became involved in decision-making and generated income, the whole family would benefit. Before, we needed a lot of manpower to handle the waste. But now, with the conveyor belt,
It converts the waste into electricity, powering 2 farms.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. US President Donald Trump signed into law a nearly $1 trillion annual defense policy bill, despite provisions providing new aid to Ukraine and reining in his ability to dial down US involvement in the defense of Europe. The fiscal 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA, authorizes a record $901 billion in annual military spending, $8 billion more than Trump requested. The act is an annual must-pass piece of legislation that sets the lawmakers' defense priorities. This year's version aims to codify more than a dozen of President Trump's executive orders. White House announced that they had signed the bill. It was a quiet affair with no Oval Office ceremony attended by reporters. The act includes $800 million in aid for Ukraine, spread over 2 years, funding US-made weapons as Russia's invasion continues. It also boosts security for NATO's eastern flank, allocating $175 million for Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said early on Friday that EU leaders have unanimously decided to provide Ukraine with an interest-free loan of $105.53 billion to cover its military and budgetary needs for the next 2 years. Ukraine will only have to repay the loan if Russia pays reparations for its fight. Merz said after a long meeting of EU leaders in Brussels, while the EU reserves the right to use Russian assets immobilized in the EU for repayment if Russia fails to pay compensation. The deal will not affect the financial obligations of Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic. At the same time, EU governments and the European Parliament would continue working on setting up a loan for Ukraine that would be based on the frozen Russian central bank assets. The loan to Ukraine based on the joint borrowing would only be repaid by Ukraine once it receives conflict reparations from Moscow. Until then, the Russian assets would remain immobilized, and the EU reserved the right to use them to repay the loan, according to the text. US administration on Thursday imposed sanctions on 2 more judges from the International Criminal Court over their involvement in the court's case against Israel. The Trump administration has already imposed sanctions on 9 ICC judges and prosecutors and threatened to designate the court in its entirety if the ICC did not drop its charges against the Israeli leaders. Earlier this year, the US administration sanctioned 6 other judges and the court's prosecutor, Karim Khan, and his 2 deputies. The measures mean the judges cannot travel to the United States or hold any assets there, but they also make it virtually impossible for them to hold credit cards, making everyday financial transactions and online purchases difficult. In November 2024, ICC judges issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Israeli Defense Chief Yoav Gallant for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity during the Gaza conflict. TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance signed binding agreements with 3 major investors to sell just over 80% of the company's US assets to American and global investors to avoid a US government ban. TikTok CEO told employees on Thursday that the social media company, as well as its Chinese owner ByteDance, had agreed to the new entity with Oracle, Silver Lake, and Abu Dhabi-based MGX on board as major investors. The deal is a major step towards resolving years of uncertainty about the short video app's future in the United States since August 2020, when the then President Donald Trump first tried unsuccessfully to ban the app that is now used regularly by more than 170 million Americans. The deal, set to close on January 22nd, would end years of efforts to force ByteDance to divest its US business over national security concerns. All right, our correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us from New Delhi. Akshay, help us understand this development. We tell our viewers that TikTok has somehow averted Trump ban. How significant is this?
Well, quite significant because the volume of the users of TikTok in the US is quite huge, literally. It was not just about an application. This meant geopolitics in a major way because it was the Joe Biden administration that had mandated that either TikTok sells its stake to a US partner because there is a limit to which a Chinese company can have an ownership in a company that is operating inside the US as a US entity. And the deal was expected to come in place on 20th January 2025, 25th of January 2025. But that was time and again averted by executive orders by Donald Trump as he came into power. And since then, there has been back and forth going on as far as this deal is concerned, and it was the involvement of the Chinese President Xi Jinping as well, who had agreed to the transaction going through. It meant quite a lot of quite a major deal. But was getting pushed back time and again, but now finally we can see that multiple firms have come together, including Oracle, including an Abu Dhabi investing firm, MGF, and other firm of the US that have bought almost equal amount of shares in the 50% stake in TikTok in the US. What we can expect is closure to this chapter, but also this also goes on to show the future of tech as the Chinese applications are surging ahead of many of the US-made applications. It's also creating a friction point and becoming another front of geopolitics in the world, especially when tech is dominating the narrative and the media landscape in the world. It becomes quite important to see that how transnational transactions are becoming talk of the town, especially among the major developing players. So it also goes on to show the importance the world leaders are showing the tech revolution, and the tech companies who are not only a means of entertainment, but also furthering national security goals as well. Back to you.
All right, Akshay, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. Congressional Democrats released dozens of new images from the estate of the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein on Thursday, a day before the U.S. Justice Department is required by law to release unclassified files from its investigation of the disgraced financier. The 68 photos are among those 95,000 that Epstein's estate released to the House Oversight Committee. Last week, Oversight Democrats released 19 photos, including some featuring now President Donald Trump, who dismissed the images as no big deal. The committee Democrats said that the images released on Thursday were selected to provide the public with transparency into a representative sample of the photos and to provide insights into Epstein's network and his extremely disturbing activities. And in news just coming in, suspected gunman in Brown University shooting has been found dead. The suspect in the mass shooting at Brown University last weekend is dead, a U.S. attorney said, as authorities investigate whether the same person killed a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor 2 days after the rampage at Brown University. Christina Sterling, a spokesperson for the U.S. attorney Lee Foley in Boston, confirmed the suspect is deceased. The manhunt since Saturday's shooting inside a classroom building at Brown University has left students and residents of Providence, Rhode Island, restless and eager for an arrest, said Mayor Brett Smiley. The 2 students at the Ivy League school were killed and at least 8 were wounded. On Monday, MIT professor Nuno Loureiro was fatally shot in his home in the Boston suburb of Brooklyn, Massachusetts, some 50 miles, that is 80 kilometers north of Brown's campus. An FBI official had said this week that the authorities did not believe there was a link between Saturday's shooting at Brown University and the MIT professor's murder. Loureiro was a member of the Departments of Nuclear Science and Engineering and Physics, as well as MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Investigators in the Providence County said that the suspect in the Brown University shooting escaped on foot into the nearby streets, prompting a search that relied heavily on residential security footage because of a lack of surveillance cameras in the classroom building and surrounding areas. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Friday that the government will launch a national gun buyback scheme following the mass shooting in Sydney. The buyback would be similar to the gun reforms introduced soon after the massacre in 1996 in Tasmania's Port Arthur after a lone gunman killed 35 people, which prompted authorities to implement some of the world's toughest gun laws.
Today, I'm also announcing that the government will establish a national gun buyback scheme to purchase surplus, newly banned and illegal firearms. The government will introduce legislation to support the funding of this buyback scheme and meet the costs on a 50-50 basis with states and territories. We expect hundreds of thousands of firearms will be collected and destroyed through this scheme.
Albanese, under pressure from critics who say his centre-left government has not done enough to curb a surge in anti-Semitism, has said that the government would also strengthen hate laws. Late on Thursday, police said that they had intercepted 2 cars and detained 7 men in Sydney's southwest after receiving information that a violent act was possibly being planned. Hundreds of paddle-out surfers and swimmers took to the waters at Bondi Beach in Australia in a memorial for victims of the mass shooting. Father and son gunmen are accused of firing into crowds at the beachside Jewish festival on last Sunday, killing 15 people in an attack authorities linked to Islamic State ideology. The leaders of Mexico and Brazil on Thursday offered to step in to try and avert the risk of war between the United States and Venezuela. The Latin American nations are looking on in dismay as Washington ramps up military and economic pressure on Nicolas Maduro's government, raising fears of a direct effort to unseat the Venezuelan leader. Brazilian President Lula da Silva said that he was very worried about the mounting crisis on Brazil's doorstep. He also said that he had offered Brazil's help to both the leaders to avoid an armed conflict here in Latin America. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum also offered to act as a go-between in talks between Washington and Caracas to find a peaceful solution so that there is no U.S. intervention. Russia, meanwhile, said that it was in constant contact with close ally Maduro and called for de-escalation. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also called for restraint and the immediate de-escalation of tensions. The United Nations Security Council will meet next Tuesday at the request of Caracas, which urged an urgent meeting over the ongoing U.S. aggression. Electoral authorities in Honduras began a partial recount of ballots cast in November 30th presidential elections, in which a candidate backed by Donald Trump holds a slim lead. The Central American country has not yet certified results from the election, in which the U.S. president-backed Nasri Asfura threatened to cut aid to Honduras if he lost. The National Electoral Council announced a recount of some 2,800 tally sheets, representing nearly 500,000 votes for inconsistencies. But the recount was delayed due to allegations of fraud by Asfura's rivals, which were dismissed by election observers from the Americas and Europe. Thousands of Argentine union members and workers gathered in Buenos Aires on Thursday to protest a proposed labor reform bill they say would weaken the workers' rights. Union leaders vowed to oppose the labor reform, arguing it favors businesses over workers and could make dismissals easier. They also warned of a potential national strike if their concerns are ignored. The protest was intended to sway lawmakers debating the bill put forward by President Javier Milei, who described it as a way to increase employment and cut bureaucracy. As per the report, a controversial bill would give employers greater flexibility over working hours and severance pay while mandating union approval for workplace assemblies. Seven people were killed on Thursday in the crash of a Cessna 550 business jet in Statesville, North Carolina, including former NASCAR driver Greg Biffle. The plane crashed at the Statesville Regional Airport in North Carolina. The North Carolina Highway Patrol said that it is believed that Biffle and members of his immediate family were among those killed, but because of a severe post-crash fire, a formal confirmation has not been completed. The plane was registered to a company tied to Biffle. Greg Biffle won 19 Cup Series races over 20 years. His final race on the circuit was the 2022 Geico 500 at Talladega. He was named one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers in 2023. In Washington, floodwaters from the rain-swollen Green River inundated a neighborhood in Kent on Thursday. Homes were submerged and several vehicles were left partially underwater as extreme weather continued to batter the Pacific Northwest. Emergency crews assisted residents in low-lying areas after days of heavy rainfall overwhelmed river banks and drainage systems. The rains were spawned by a series of atmospheric river storms. Vast airborne currents of dense moisture siphoned from the ocean. Now, these systems swept inland across the Pacific Northwest, affecting areas of North Idaho and western Montana. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, David van Wiel, is on an India visit. NIA arrests another key accused in connection with the last month's Delhi bomb blast case. Dense fog engulfs parts of North India.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's take a quick relook at the top stories now. Prime Minister Modi returns from Jordan, Ethiopia, Oman visit, strengthening diplomatic and economic ties. Prime Minister Modi to address closing ceremony of the second WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine in New Delhi. Trump signs record $901 billion US defense policy bill, authorizing new military spending and Ukraine aid. Violence erupts again in Bangladesh after young leader Osman Hadi's death. Concerns rise over security near Indian Assistant High Commission in Chattogram. And in sports, India aims to seal the series against South Africa in the fifth and final T20 in Ahmedabad. Proteas look to draw level. Massive protests broke out in several parts of Bangladesh, including Dhaka and Chattogram, following the death of July Uprising organizer Sharif Osman Hadi in Singapore. Hadi, the convener of Inqilab Manch, died while undergoing treatment after he was shot in the head in Dhaka on December 12th. A mob reportedly attacked the office of Bangladesh's leading Bangla daily Pratham Alo in Dhaka. According to local media reports, the attack took place around midnight at the newspaper's Karma Bazaar office. Several employees confirmed that multiple floors of the building were ransacked, with documents, books, furniture and computers reportedly set ablaze. The protest also erupted outside the Indian Assistant High Commissioner's residence in Chattogram, raising serious concerns over the security of diplomatic premises. According to police sources, the incident occurred in the early hours of December 19th, when an enraged crowd gathered outside the residence and hurled brickbats, damaging property and creating panic in the area. As the situation escalated, law enforcement agencies fired tear gas shells to disperse the protesters. India has lodged a strong protest against what it has called the deteriorating security situation around its mission in Dhaka. On Wednesday, India's Foreign Ministry summoned Bangladeshi envoy Riaz Hamidullah to convey its concerns about the actions of some extremist elements in the country. DD India's Naval Sang Parmar joins us from Bangladesh. Naval Sang, good morning. We've told our viewers about the situation in Bangladesh. You get us the latest. Is the law and order situation under control now?
Law and order situation in Bangladesh is very critical. As yesterday night, there was a many incident reported which created a panic condition among the citizens and particularly the Indian staffs and the Indian officials posted in Bangladesh. As the mob garrowed the Assistant High Commission in Chattogram, and they attacked on the residence of the Assistant High Commissioner, and they also attacked the prominent dailies in Bangladesh like Daily Star and Pratham Alo, and they also manhandled the Editor Guild chairperson and the editor-in-chief of New Age, a leading daily in Bangladesh. So the situation is very critical, particularly the law and order situation, and though army is deployed and they are assisting the law enforcement agency for the maintaining of law and order, but there is no visible presence of armed forces seen on the ground to tackle the situation and to control the mob justice and mob violence in Bangladesh. Police force is there, but they are lacking the confidence and they don't have a full control on the situation in the Bangladesh right now. And the administration, Yunus administration, who is responsible for the election and the overall law and order situation maintenance in Bangladesh, but they are the people involved in the Yunus administration and those who were part of the Yunus administration 5 days back or a week back, they are using social media platforms to instigate the mobs and they instigate the fanatical elements in Bangladesh to promote the mob justice and promote the violence in Bangladesh, and they are creating a pathetic situation here in Bangladesh. Yesterday there was one more incident reported that the one journalist in Khulna shot dead with the point blank gunshot. And at the same time, in Mymensingh, in the North Bangladesh, one Hindu man was mob lynched for his blasphemy remarks, alleged blasphemy remarks, and then his body was burnt, hanged and then burnt. So situation is very, very grim in Bangladesh, and the administration, it is not taking sufficient measures to protect the lives and properties in Bangladesh, as well as the media and the diplomatic community in Bangladesh. Though they are making statements that we are doing all the possible things to protect these things, but somehow it is seen on the ground that the will of the Yunus administration to control the mob justice and violence in Bangladesh is very bleak.
All right. What is also your evaluation of the attacks near the Indian mission in Dhaka? What entailed that, and what are the precautions that are being taken?
It is not in Dhaka, but it is in Chittagong, port
Yes.
city of Bangladesh, where Assistant High Commission is located, and the attack was on the residence of the Assistant High Commissioner in Chittagong and the official residence of the officials in Chittagong. Meanwhile, earlier 2 days back, there was a gherao of Indian High Commission in Dhaka also, and at that time also the situation could have been out of control, but luckily there were enough police presence and security forces were there. They controlled the situation, but there 2 days back situation was very grim here in Dhaka also. But there is a panic condition among the diplomatic community too. That some days back, U.S. Embassy also issued a travel warning and the alert for the U.S. citizens. So it is the case that the nowadays, due to election approaching in February next year, and the overall law and order condition in Bangladesh, there is a security risk for the foreigners in Bangladesh as well as the common people, because the mob is taking law and order in their hand instead of police and the army.
Right. We leave it here. Naval Sang, thank you so much for joining in with those details. And in other news, Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, David Van Wiel, is on an India visit and is expected to meet External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Earlier on Thursday, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met the Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, David Van Wiel, in the national capital and discussed a range of bilateral security and defence issues, including priority areas for co-development and co-production of defence equipment. Both the countries intend to explore the possibilities of defence cooperation in identified areas for the mutual benefit by developing a defence industrial roadmap for technology collaboration, co-production and co-development of platforms and equipment also. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh stated that people-to-people ties between both the countries are very strong, with a large Indian diaspora in the Netherlands serving as a living bridge and strengthening the bonds of friendship. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh asserted that Operation Sindoor has demonstrated India's high-impact, short-duration operational capability. Addressing the Air Force Commanders' Conclave in New Delhi, Defence Minister commended the performance of air defence system of the country and also other equipment used effectively during Operation Sindoor, and urged commanders to take lessons from Operation Sindoor for every future challenge. He praised the courage, speed and precision with which the Indian Air Force destroyed the terror camps during the operation, effectively handling the responsible reaction from Pakistan after the strikes. The Defence Minister also underlined that Indian Air Force is a technologically advanced, operationally agile and strategically confident and future-oriented force, safeguarding national interests in today's times. India's Chief of the Army Staff, General Upendra Dwivedi, on Thursday virtually addressed the 3rd Land Forces Summit hosted by the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. The summit was attended by chiefs of armies and senior military leaders from Australia, Japan, the Philippines, Malaysia and the United States. At the Indo-Pacific Land Forces Summit, Indian Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi proposed the Ikigai framework to boost regional military cooperation, standing for interoperability, knowledge, international humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, generative tech partnerships, assurance and integrated logistics. It rests on shared diagnosis, principles and actions. The framework aims to enhance multilateral land power collaboration for peace, stability and prosperity across the Indo-Pacific. India's National Investigation Agency has arrested another key accused in connection with the last month's Delhi bomb blast case. Yasir Ahmad Dar, a resident of Shopian in Srinagar, Jammu and Kashmir, is the 9th accused to be arrested in the case. He was nabbed by an NIA team from Delhi. Dar was placed under arrest under relevant provisions of the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. According to NIA, investigations have revealed Dar's active role in the conspiracy behind the car bomb blast. Investigators have further found that Dar was in close contact with other accused in the case, including Umar Nabi, the deceased perpetrator of the bombing, and Mufti Irfan, a key conspirator. Red alerts have been issued for the Indian states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar as dense to extremely dense fog is expected to disrupt visibility and daily movement over the next few days. The Indian Met Department has issued a red alert for Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, warning of dense to extremely dense fog during the early morning hours from December 19th to 20th. The conditions are expected to significantly reduce visibility and disrupt normal movement during peak morning hours. An orange alert has been placed over Punjab, Haryana and Delhi, where dense fog is likely to persist during early hours. Yellow alert is in place for Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Gangetic West Bengal and parts of northeast India. In these regions, dense fog is likely in isolated pockets between December 19th and 22nd, with visibility issues expected mainly during morning hours. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Bolivians voice criticism after the government plans to get rid of its fuel subsidies, ending 20 years of fixed prices. As Women's Hockey India League to start from December 28th, Delhi captain Navneet Kaur talks to DD India. Special guests at the Rio de Janeiro Aquarium amuse all. Stay with us to know who were these special visitors.
For sustainability to become more than just a statement, it needs to be practical and seamlessly fit into our lives.
If we are thinking about a net zero economy, and obviously automobile sector is at the center of this transformation. Instead of buying new vehicle, if I can retrofit and upgrade my existing vehicle, environmentally speaking, it is superior.
Zero waste means repair, reuse, analyze.
We realized that if women became involved in decision making and generated income, the whole family would benefit. Before, we needed a lot of manpower to handle the waste. But now, with the conveyor belt,
It converts the waste into electricity, powering 2 farms.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to updates from the world of business. Bolivia's new president, Rodrigo Paz, announced that the country will get rid of its fuel subsidies, ending 20 years of fixed prices. Bolivians reacted sharply with frustration and uncertainty after the government scrapped fuel subsidies, triggering sharp price hike that rippled through daily life. Lines of minibuses, taxis and cargo trucks stretched for blocks at gas stations as drivers faced an 86% jump in gasoline prices and 163% for diesel. The government stated that the move will reduce costly fuel smuggling and has announced wage and welfare increases to cushion the impact. However, transport workers and much of the informal workforce fear higher fares, rising inflation and inadequate relief. On to sports. India and South Africa are set for a thrilling 5th T20 international encounter at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on Friday, with the hosts leading the series 2-1 and aiming to seal the deal on home soil. The 4th T20 international in Lucknow was abandoned due to heavy fog, leaving both the teams eager to finish the tour on a positive note. India have enjoyed strong support at this iconic venue and will be hoping to capitalize on familiar conditions and the backing of a passionate home crowd. For India, the series decider not only represents a change to wrap up the T20 international contest convincingly, but also provides valuable preparation ahead of major upcoming events like the T20 World Cup. The two teams have faced off 34 times in T20 internationals, and India have won 20 of those. South Africa have emerged victorious 13 times, while one game ended in no result. Ecuadorian footballer Mario Pineda was shot dead in the port city of Guayaquil. Local media reported that Pinera was attacked by two people riding motorcycles who opened fire on him, his mother and another woman. 33-year-old Pinera was part of Ecuador's national team for the 2018 and 2022 World Cup qualifiers, but was not selected in the squad for the 2022 finals in Qatar. He made 9 appearances for Ecuador from 2015 to 2021 and also played for Fluminense club in Brazil in 2022. As the new edition of Hockey India League draws closer, Delhi SG Pipers are placing strong emphasis on a youth-centric approach and attacking intent. In an exclusive conversation with DD India correspondent Mehraj Singh, the captain of the women's Delhi team, Navneet Kaur, talked about what it takes to lead a young group of players and her achievement of securing 200 caps for India.
The countdown to the Hockey India League 2025-26 has begun. And to talk more about this, we have the captain of the Delhi women's team, Navneet Kaur. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am. New season, new hopes, and as a captain this season, what will be your first order of business, considering there were flashes of potential last season, but it was a mixed season. So what do you think, what were the wrongs which you can rectify this season?
As a captain, it's my responsibility to make everyone comfortable on the field and off the field, especially our junior players. And I'm looking for a good combination between younger players and foreign players. So as a captain, it's my responsibility to mix everyone and put those combination on the field also. You completed your 200 caps. So how does it feel to be as such a seasoned player, and how does it feel to be that you've given all these years to hockey? It's a big achievement as a player. You play for your country 200 matches, and I'm very proud of myself, and I think it's the best thing happening in last year. So I'm very happy. The Delhi women's team is all geared up for another exciting season of the Hockey India League, and time will tell how the team fares out in this edition. With cameraman Gaurav, this is Mehraj Singh for DD India, Delhi.
Let's get to other updates from the snow-covered Alps of Switzerland. This is St. Moritz, in fact, a place where skiing history meets modern sport. As the Audi FIS Women's Ski World Cup arrives on its final day, the world's best skiers are racing not just for medals, but also for legacy. St. Moritz, after all, is home to Switzerland's first winter tourism school and has hosted the Winter Olympics twice in 1928 and 1948.
Of Switzerland, this is St. Moritz, where skiing tradition meets the modern sport. As the Audi Ski FIS Women's World Cup arrives to its grand finale, champions from around the world are competing not just for medals, but also for legacy. St. Moritz, after all, is home to Switzerland's first ski school and hosted Winter Olympics twice in 1928 and 1948.
Moritz has a long history in ski sports. And especially as a ski club, we're very proud of hosting the Ski World Cup here every year of the ladies running down the hill.
The finale spotlight is on Super G. Super G stands for Super Giant Slalom, an event that combines the speed of downhill with more technical turns. It's a speed event, but with more directional changes than downhill. Each skier gets just one run on a single course, and the fastest time wins.
To do the race here is special, it's a technical slope, especially downhill here because it's so fast, it's so long, the gate have a lot of meters to do the turn, and but it feels great.
In the Super G, New Zealand's Alice Robinson dominated the field, clocking speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour on the course. France's Romane Miradoli secured second place, with Italy's Sofia Goggia finishing a close third. However, the standout skier of the event was Lindsey Vonn, the 41-year-old American who made a remarkable return to competitive skiing after 6 years away, commanding attention with podium-winning performances in the opening 2 days of the race.
Today I had my first World Cup race here in St. Moritz. It was such an amazing moment. It was like the atmosphere in the finish. It was very, very nice to experience this today. And my family came from home, so it made it even more special.
The International Federation of Skiing and Snowboarding organizes World Cup events globally. India's Aanchal Thakur competes in the FIS circuit, and in 2025, she participated in Italy, Austria, Slovakia, and the UAE. Aanchal hails from Himachal Pradesh and is the first Indian skier to win international competitions. Her story reminds that skiing and winter sports are expanding beyond traditional borders. This is Nidhi reporting for DD India from St. Moritz, Switzerland.
And Santa Claus swapped his sleigh for scuba gear at Aqua Rio in Rio de Janeiro, diving into South America's largest marine aquarium with Mrs. Claus. Carrying a Christmas tree, they swam among the sharks, rays and tropical fish, turning the tank into a festive underwater scene. Christmas magic takes a new form here, up on your screens. That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.